Welcome to Finishing First Grade. This is Missy Zacharias, the principal at the primary school, and I'm so glad that you joined us. I've put together some slides to help your child finish first grade strong. This is just a short video clip. You may or may not be able to relate to this man trying to help a child do their homework, so you can watch that when you get a chance. All right, the agenda for the day, grit and growth mindset. We're going to be talking about reading expectations and assessments in first grade, how to help and support reading at home, writing expectations, responding to literature, phonics, math expectations, newsletters, communications, and resources. So those are all the things we'll go through today. All right, grit and growth mindset. Talk about their day. This is super important to me. I read a book called Mindset several years ago, 7 or 8 years ago, by Carol Dweck, and it was kind of a game changer for me. It was that piece that was really important to help children grow in their thinking and not give up, and to have grit throughout life, not just in school, but in everything that they do. So it's a very important piece for me. And so when you're trying to foster that at home, there's lots of things that you can do. First of all, talk about their day. You want to know what was difficult for them. You want to encourage them to try difficult things. So you might say, did you make any mistakes today that you learned from? What did you learn from those mistakes? And talk about that and make that normal and a commonplace. Praise the process. Don't praise students for finishing things quickly. So what could happen with that if you say, oh my gosh, you're so smart, you finished that so fast. When they come to something that's hard, they're not going to think they're very smart because they're not able to finish it fast. So that will backfire on you and not create a student that has lots of grit to work through things. So praise the process. So say, oh, I like how you're working hard on that. You haven't finished, but you sure are working hard, and working through hard things is a great thing to do, instead of you're so smart, you finish quickly. Because we don't want them to just choose easy things to do, because that's not how you grow. You can grow your brain. Tell them that it's a muscle. It's like your arms, your legs. It's like when you run and you play and you jump, you can grow your brain the same way. Help your child with his or her dialogue. When they say something is too hard, just tell them that you don't know how to do it yet, but that's what we're working towards. And don't let them give up on those things. But also, very important piece of that, which is not here, is you have to model that at home as well. When something is hard for you, model that, oh, it's hard for me, but I'm going to keep working hard to try to finish it, or I'm going to try to work through the hard things. So, and then encourage failure. When I say encourage failure, I mean that children can learn a lot from something that they didn't do correctly the first time. So if they get up and try again, they learn how to persevere through those hard things, and they'll do things differently. So the next thing I want to talk about is first grade reading expectations. So there's quite a lot in first grade. They move very quickly through lots of things. They grow very quickly. So these are all the things that they will go through in first grade: comprehension skills, foundational skills, response skills, multiple genres, all of these things. And what that actually looks like, I'll talk about here in just a little while. This is a chart in first grade, by the end of first grade, and I'll have an example of what that looks like. We want them at an I. So if you know what your child's level is, your teacher has probably shared that information with you, or has shared that information with you. So this is where they should be. So if they're not there yet, that's okay. But that means we have a little time here at school, but you are a very important part of helping your child be successful at home and encouraging them to read at home. All right. So here is that book. This is an actual J on reading A to Z, but that's where we want them by the end of the year, if that gives you some perspective. This is an assessment that the students have taken before in the past, and what we do now, starting second semester, is the student is going to be responsible for reading the entire passage on their own. And then the teacher will read, or the computer will read, either one will read the questions and the answers. So they will have the questions and the answers read to them, but they will have to read the whole passage. If you'll read through those questions when you get a chance, it's very important because they're not all recall questions. And what I mean by recall is you can go right back in the story and find exactly where that is. Some of these questions, they have to do some inferencing, which means they have to take what they know, they have to look at what's going on in the story, and then make a judgment of what the answer would be. So not always just cut and dry. So it's nice to go through these kinds of things and ask them questions as they're reading when they're at home so that they can get better at being able to answer questions or know what's going on in a story. Here's another one that you can stop and read. It's, again, the student will read the passage on their own, and the teacher will read the questions and the answer choices. So to get to that point, what can you do at home? This is probably the most important piece, is what are you going to do at home to help? So reading at home, the purpose is to build fluency. That means that they're reading at a pace with expression, stopping at punctuation, comprehension, word solving, and a love for reading in a supportive environment. Using a text that's independent level. When I say independent level, you don't want them struggling so much that they can't read the book at home. At home, we want them to just practicing books that they can read almost at an independent level, if that makes sense. Sit next to your child so you can see the words and illustrations, and you guys can talk through things together. Word solving is super important. I didn't mention this during grit, but productive struggle is a very important piece for a student. You want to let them have that productive struggle time. You don't want to build them out so quickly that they don't get a chance to use all of the resources and knowledge that they have. A lot of times as parents and as teachers, I know this because I am a parent or I was a teacher, is we want to rescue them, but don't rescue too quickly. You want to give them the opportunity, because you're sending two messages there. You would send the message that, I don't think you can do it. I'll give you the answer. We don't want to send that message. And you're also sending them a message that someone's always going to be there to bail them out. And you don't want that to happen either. So when you hear when an error is made, wait to give your child a chance to work on it independently. And then when you're certain they're going to keep going, then stop and say, oh, you may want to go back and try that again. Praise the effort. This goes back to that grit and growth mindset. I like to hear specific praise, or I'd like for you to give specific praise, because when you tell us, oh, you did a great job, what exactly did they do that was great? They may be struggling with knowing that. So you can say, oh, you used the first letter and checked the pictures. Great job. Or you tried more than one strategy on your word. Nice job of trying different vowel sounds. So whatever they did, whatever resources they used in their mind or strategies, praise those so that they'll be able to know, oh, that was the part that I did that was great. So praise the effort and use specific praise. Comprehension is a very important piece. We all want to know what we read and how to use that information. So, of course, you can ask those recall questions like, who was riding in the car, or where did they go when they left the store? Those are all kind of recall questions. But we also want to ask those really deep thinking questions. Why do you think that happened? And then add, how do you know? So what I mean by that is that we're going to use text evidence. So we're going to go back in the story. So if you tell me, well, I think that happened because he was really sad, well, then I'm going to say back to you, how do you know he was sad? What part of the story showed you that the boy was getting sad? And you want them to be able to go back in the story and find, well, this is where I saw it, or this is why I think that, so that they can have more meat to their answers. What do you think blank means? And add, how do you know that? That means you're going back and you're thinking that through, like, well, I know that because there's a picture there that shows this, even those kinds of things. And then urge rereading. All of us have had to reread something. I do it on a daily, if not hourly basis, so that I can comprehend what I read. So encourage that too, and do that yourself. Modeling is a great, great way to help your child. To help with fluency, that expressive reading, have your child echo read. So if you read it, a small passage, just a paragraph, and then have them read it back, that will help. And they will see that model and they will try to emulate that model. And encourage just the right pacing. You don't want them reading so quickly that they don't know what they're reading, but you don't want them reading too slowly either. And the pause at punctuation marks. Compliment your students. Specific praise that I talked about before is super important. Let them know what you saw that was excellent. Here's just a guide on what that looks like. You use the first letter. I saw you tried more than one strategy. I love how you're thinking about what you're reading and making connections. And so you can always encourage making those connections. Like, oh, you had a scooter. If the story was about a scooter, you had a scooter one time. Does this remind you of what you did on your scooter? And have them make connections between the stories that they're reading. And then when they're doing a great fluency reading, then praise them for that. I could hear you take a break after the punctuation. Just that specific praise is going to help so much. Before you start reading, do a picture walk. Look at the clues that are in the title. What do we think the story is going to be about? What's the genre? How do you know? Why do you want to read this story? And then as you're reading, this could happen during. What do you think will happen next? How do you feel about the main characters? Would you do things differently if you were the main character? And go on from there. How do you think the story will end? And then you can always add, and why do you think that? And then have them give you the information from the text that is giving them the clues. So that would be great. After reading, you're not done. You can ask them how the story made them feel. What did you like or dislike about the story? Does this book make you think of anything else you've read? So don't forget to add that evidence for your feelings. So if they feel a certain way, why did you feel that way? What in the story made you think that? And those will really get your student thinking. Reading, writing connection. So we know that reading and writing is so very tied together. So when an author is writing a story, we want to mention, why do you think this author wrote this story? Was it to give us information? Was it to make us laugh or entertain us? What was his reason for writing that? And then kind of talk about it. If it's an informational text, he might have used headings on pictures to help us understand what the information is. First grade writing expectations. We're moving on to writing. There are a lot of them. So I'm going to go ahead and click these right through here and you can read through those. Every day this is worked on. Oops, let's go back. Every day this is worked on using proper spacing. So when you have your student write at home, if you have your student write at home, think about all of these things that you need to remind them to do. Use basic capitalization and punctuation. All right, responding to literature is something we do pretty much on a daily basis. If your student is reading something or a book, they are able to respond to questions about what they've read and using text evidence to support their response. That's super important right now. If you read, for instance, the Three Little Pigs story, and you ask the question, who do you think is the smartest pig? It doesn't, in my mind, it doesn't really matter why you think that, as long as whatever pig you pick, as long as you have the evidence that shows that pig would be the smartest. Our ultimate goal is to get them to be able to write those responses. However, at home, just orally to you, talking about those or orally giving you the response is going to help them when they're starting to write those responses. So it's super important. And I just went ahead and put some writing examples in here. These are some first grades that I just took pictures of today and put them in here of some of their writing. So this is a great way, or a great example. Are there mistakes? Sure. Are we working to fix them? Yes. But if your child is having trouble with writing, this is where it needs to be. There needs to be some spacing, capital letters at the beginning of their sentences. So these are just some examples. Phonics, we're to the phonics part, which teaches that letters represent sounds. We teach phonics systematically and explicitly. So we as a district have a pre-K through third grade program. It is taught 30 minutes a day, every single teacher's room, and it's a very scripted lesson, and we've seen some great benefits from it. This is kind of the foundations way right here. 30 minutes a day, like I said, 14 units in first grade, 34 weeks of instruction. And those are all the things you may see them tapping out words. There's glued sounds. There's just the sneaky E sound. They would echo, they tap out, they independently write for dictation. So I know that the first grade teachers send those packets home for the units. please take a look at that. Please work on that at home, because we are seeing a big difference with this explicit instruction that we're doing for phonics. They are understanding the rules of the English language, and it's really great to see. And this is by the end of first grade for phonics. These are all the things that they will be doing. So that's quite a bit. It's kind of a scared straight slide right there. Lots of things that your first grader is learning this year. Math, first grade expectations. I went ahead and put all of the standards up here. There's 3 slides on it, on this, I think 2 or 3. There's lots for them to learn in math as well. And so when you look through these, I'd like for you to think, like the one that's sticking out to me right now, tell time to the hour or half hour using analog and digital clocks. Please have your child do that at home. That's an easy, math is all around us. And what I told the parents that were here, remember, you are a model all the time for your student. They hear what you say. They know what you're saying. So if you were saying something like, oh, I was never good in math. Oh, I don't like math. Your child is going to take on those ways. And we want them to really know that math is all around us. Math is fun. Math is great. Like, if we didn't have math, we wouldn't be able to do all kinds of things. So really make sure that you're talking about math in a very positive way. And so here's all, I just let you read through that. That's part of what they need to know in first grade. Here's some more. They're doing expanded numbers up to 120, and it gets really far up as they get to second and third grade into the thousands and then to the hundreds of thousands. So it's really great. It would be really great if you got a really good handle on numbers up to 120 for your student. I went ahead and clipped some of their actual assessments that they've done before. Aiden has 8 books on a shelf. 3 books are about dogs. The other books are about cats. How many books are about cats? That's just one question, but they're all here. And I know when Miss Heidi talked at the parent night, she was talking about the problems that go something more like this. I have some books. Somebody gave me 3 more, and I have 15 books now. How many did I have in the beginning? So always kind of talk of math in those kind of terms, because it's pretty easy to go, okay, tell me 2 plus 3, tell me 6 plus 4. But none of our problems come that easily all the time. So they're gonna need a way to think through their problems. So think about that when you're in the car. Think about doing, I know we always played games at the dinner table or when we were out to eat, and it would be something like, I have a number I'm thinking of. It's between 10 and 20. It has a 2 in it, or I say it when I say the even numbers. So just giving clues like that and playing number sense games like that will help your student in understanding numbers. Math conversations. Ask them how they came up with those those answers. So if they said, oh, the answer is 6, well, how do you know this? And have them talk through it. And don't let them just say, because I know. Have them talk through it a little bit more than that. First grade newsletter. You'll see a first grade newsletter come home every week. So you can always look at the newsletter and find out what's going on in class. That's a great way to stay up to date. And here are some resources. Everything can be logged in through Clever. If you don't know how to do this yet, please contact your teacher, because Clever is a great tool to be able to do that with. Because once you log into Clever, the teacher can give you the student's password and email. Then you will have access to all of these practicing tools. And Reading A to Z has just as many books as you want to work on. So those are some great resources. All right. Thank you for joining me here today. Just wanted to give you some quick pointers, some tips on how to help your child finish strong in first grade. We appreciate partnering with you, and we hope you have a great day.